Overdrive today, we drive the India-bound Skoda Octavia and find out what makes the Nissan X-Trail exciting. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Sohini Dutt. If you've just taken a look at our teaser, you know it's a comeback car show of sorts. For starters, good news for Skoda fans in India. The Octavia is being brought back, and Rohit gets you all the styling as well as the new features in this Octavia for starters.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the new Skoda Octavia. This is the facelift of the Octavia that was sold to us for a brief while in the Indian market. So what you get on this is these new headlights. So that is the new DRL signature. You can see that shape right there. And then you get the slightly different treatment that is given to the grille. You look at the mesh down below, you realize that there are some new design elements there as well. Now, in terms of the wheel designs, again, some juicy options, some interesting options to choose from. And the sport line is the one that we are looking at the moment. So you also get these nice black accents. Again, something that we've seen with the Superb, for example. So the grille, the wing mirrors, the window line, all of that gets these nice black accents. So you have the privacy glasses at the back, and when you look at the tail, you see this nice lip spoiler, again adding a brilliant effect. The Skoda lettering in the new Skoda logo, again done up in a gloss black. Same goes for the Octavia, and this color visually pops out so nicely. You see that shark fin antenna right on top, and in terms of the space, well, nothing has changed because, like I said, this is the facelift. So you'll see slightly different upholstery right on the inside. This is the sport line, so it's got the sportier seats as well. So the seat automatically moves back, so you get the comfort, ingress and egress. It's got this nice fabric material. It's got a quilted pattern on it, and these are really comfortable. We have been driving this car for a while, all morning in fact. These are electronically controlled seats. You also get this flat bottom steering wheel. All the door pads and everything is going to be very familiar to what we've seen on the Octavia previously. I really like the treatment for these door knobs. I think it's done quite nicely. The push button starter is right below the steering. The moment you start the car, the seats are again going to come back to their original position, whatever you have set. There's memory seating as well. What you get is a fully digital cluster. You get the temperature gauge and the fuel gauge on either ends of it. There's this new screen with a very easy to use layout. So you've got this tile layout. It gives you the range here. It tells you which phone is connected, either CarPlay or Bluetooth. You get the inbuilt navigation right here. If your CarPlay is connected, you're still going to get this inbuilt navigation. You don't get the CarPlay or the Google Maps over here. Then this is your cameras. It doesn't get 360-degree camera on this particular car, but I'm sure that option would be there. Then you have a camera cleaner as well. You just saw that, water being sprayed on the camera. And then you have a wide angle view if you so need. These are going to be dynamic guidelines, and then you have parking sensors at the front and at the rear. And this is for locking and unlocking the car. This is for bringing up the climate menu, where you can make changes to the air conditioning, the flow of it, the fan speed, etc. You have heated seats on this particular model, and that's about it. That's what is primarily worth talking about. You also get two USB-C ports. You get a wireless charging. This is going to be your gear selector, right? And this is your parking brake, auto start stop, some space to keep your knickknacks, a cup holder right here, key holder right here, and of course some space in the tunnel console to keep your stuff.
Well, we are hoping that the Skoda Octavia can bring some zing back into the premium sedan space. We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll tell you more about the engine, performance, as well as the driving dynamics. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, the India-bound Skoda Octavia will be offered with a 1.5-litre petrol engine, which will be mated to a 7-speed DSG automatic gearbox. Now, Rohit tells us more about the driving dynamics as well as handling of this car.
I've said this in the past. Skodas are usually bought by people who want that slightly sporty edge over the competition, someone who wants that slightly more premium feel. And in that scheme of things, the 1 litre, it's a good engine, but the 1.5 is just the better engine. And that same engine is also powering this particular Octavia that we are driving right now. So this is the Sportline, not the RS. So what you get is about 150 PS of power, very similar outputs to what we get on the Slavia. Similar tune as well. For the larger vehicle that the Octavia is, it still feels more than adequate. You know, it doesn't feel like a compromise anymore. Of course, the RS is definitely something that you will absolutely love, but even for the additional length, even for the longer wheelbase, the bigger size of this vehicle, the 1.5 still feels quite nice. It doesn't feel like a compromise. It doesn't feel like it's just about adequate. It really performs quite well. So I have managed to drive this car on the highway, driving a little bit in the city right now. The economy figures, at least on what the onboard computer is telling me, is excellent too, because let me remind you, it also comes with the cylinder deactivation technology. Of course, 150 PS sounds very humble when you compare it to the RS, but you know, in real world terms, it just performs quite well. Similarly, the engine also sounds very humble when you compare it to the RS. It doesn't have the crackles and the pops that you get with the RS, but it's still a nice sounding engine. It's still a nice sounding motor. The way the engine performs on the highway, around some of the twisty roads, around some of the winding roads that I've driven, even on city stretches, the engine performs so well. Thankfully, we have that engine on the Slavia. The steering, as always, feels nice and precise, even in today's day and age where they're overly assisted by all the electronics. And I'm not just talking about the EPS, I'm also talking about the ADAS at play, right? Where the steering is trying to center itself, the steering is trying to bring the car back in its lane, make sure that, you know, you're within your limits and not wavering here and there. Even with all of that happening, it still has a very natural feel to it. So be it mild curves or something nice, fast and flowing, the steering has a lot of connect, and that's something that I really like. The visibility has always been great with the Octavia, even with the low riding sedan that it is, and that continues even with this model. I mean, it's just a facelift at the end of the day, right? So all that doesn't change. Ride quality has always had that firm edge, that typical European ride quality, and even on these roads where we are driving on the B roads, there are a few ruts, joints here and there, you can feel that firm edge. But it's something that I'm willing to live with for the charm of a premium sedan, for the charm of an Octavia. What's sticking out on the center console is still that old shifter or selector, and we've seen with newer Skodas, they moved to something very similar to what the Audi Q6 has, and I'm not a big fan of that. This one still feels much nicer. In terms of the ergonomics, everything just falls very easily at hand. The screen is nice and easy to read. The layout is absolutely easy to come to grips with. So even if you are not a big fan of tech, even if you're not a big fan of new screens and touch screens, etc., if you're an old timer coming back to the Octavia, you will simply love how easy the screen is to use. And we've also had a chance to get a look at the new facelift versions of the Slavia and the Kushaq that will come, and that new Slavia just looks, they definitely do need to do the RS treatment on that. That would be something. But coming back to the Octavia just drives so well, right? I mean, when you drive the Slavia and then you also drive the Octavia, you know why the Octavia is what it is. You know why the Octavia is such a popular model for Skoda. It drives quite differently than the Slavia. It definitely feels like an upgrade. It definitely brings back memories of what a premium sedan should feel like. At the moment, the entire market is just moving towards crossovers, SUVs. Sedans are something that we drive largely in the luxury segment. And of course, that's a different beast altogether. Those are different animals altogether. But in that premium space, the Octavia has always had a special place, right? It's always made that special place in our hearts. And one drive in the Octavia just reminds you why it felt so special. The handling, the dynamics, the ride quality, the way it goes around even neutral bends, tight bends, fast bends. You just know there is so much poise to the way the car drives, and that is what I really love about the Octavia. So even if Skoda doesn't find a lot of takers compared to, say, an SUV or a crossover, they still need to have an Octavia in the dealership. And I think that's simply how I'll sum up my thoughts. The Octavia needs to make a comeback.
Well, it's time to head into our final break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we tell you all about the newly launched Nissan X-Trail.